development on that site. So I think that the idea of trying to keep a local business, a family business that's been there for a long time, is very warranted on this site. And then you get to some of the other issues. You know, I think that the Fatt family's been around for a long time. Obviously good employers. Some of the speakers have spoken to working for them. I think that it's unfortunate, some of the other comments and trying to get to what people perceive we can do for community amenities. Mr. Sherenia mentioned my report to council, and my report was unanimously supported by council, and it was to ask staff to come back with a report on how Saanich can get to some sort of community amenity contribution, what that could look at, like looking at other jurisdictions, because they're different in different areas. As Mr. Strongthorne had said, in some areas the amenity package is different. So that's going to come back to council. I also have to look at what the proponent is prepared to do. Originally, when we met, he was a little shocked over the not shocked, I guess didn't understand our affordable housing trust fund and how it worked, and so he's bumped that up to something more than it was originally. He was willing to negotiate some sort of trail connection through the site, but the Blockwatch people didn't want that. So that came off the table. I think the important part is the design of the commercial building or the industrial building is really sympathetic to the neighborhood. How they've designed it so the trucks will back in, there'll be some soundproofing walls, they can only enter a certain way. He's really tried to think about the community around there. There were comments at one of the meetings where Stan Brigadier had said something about the parking on Douglas Street further down, and so you know, I've talked to our engineer about that. There's something to do with the street being a little narrow in Pinch Point, and I ran into a truck as I was coming out and had to pull over. So I did mention that to the Director of Engineering. At the last meeting, there were comments about Dieppe. It is the local connector, you know, up to and across Quadra and Douglas connector, but the engineer did say that the volume of traffic wasn't significant, and when you count the houses coming down, whereas Con has a significant issue of speeding, and I think Con will take more of the traffic from this development. So I think you have to, the applicant has to recognize that the impacts to the neighborhood are there. There's going to be traffic impacts. So I do think that Con is where the sidewalk should go. But what I would say to the people on Con is I think you should write a letter to the Administrative Traffic Committee of Saanich. I'm liaison on that committee. And I think we should have a look at it, because when I look at it on the map, it does look like a lovely cut through. And I'm sure people speed around that corner. And although I'm supportive of a sidewalk, I also looked at the lot lines, and there are some people who have wonderful hedges on Saanich right-of-way. So that could be a concern around putting a sidewalk in. So some of those. I think it was really important for the DCCs to be mentioned, because not a lot of people talk about them. You know, in council we're just used to them. I didn't ask staff to tell me the value amount, $250,000 was said, but I think you should recognize that the development cost charges in this area are to include, to provide funds to assist the municipality in paying the capital costs of providing, constructing, altering or expanding sewage, water, drainage, highway facilities, and acquiring and improving parkland to accommodate new development. Plus, this part of the North Quadra development cost charge area also creates some funds towards municipal-wide DCCs, which are the ones that I like because they are municipal DCCs for parks, major roads, and bikeways. So we do collect some funds around there as well. So the DCCs are collected, and it is part of what the municipality will acquire. I think the other thing that was really important to me as the process went along was Gabo Creek, which is really a part of the Colquitt's watershed. I think it's a tributary of Colquitt's. And in the region, we're going through a development of regional watersheds. So I think the applicant, after the first meeting, recognized that it was an important community asset, and he wanted to be part of helping to maintain that. So I think that contribution has added to it. I also think that the design of the building and the energy efficiency, although an amenity or an efficiency to the applicant in his operations, reducing energy costs and whatnot, it's also a benefit to the greater community as we try and reduce our carbon footprint and greenhouse gas and things like that. And I did hear the applicant tonight say under his breath, wasn't quite loud enough, but I think he said that he would look at the housing for his employees as well. So, you know, that's another, I know some will say, well, that's an amenity to the community, but it is an amenity to try and keep our workers local. As we've seen in the paper, the cost of living here is very high, and the cost of housing is very high. So if an employer can help to try and keep his staff here, I think that's a plus as well. So although I understand Mr. Sherinia's concerns, I think hopefully when we get the report back from staff about community amenity and what that could look like for Saanich, I think that will be a thing that everyone should be paying attention to. The wording in the government report said, as it was pointed out, but it's a planning tool. It's not to take money from an applicant or refuse a subdivision or a plan for the money. It has to be part of the whole planning tool, which also includes DCCs and things. So all in all, I think, although some may think that the community contribution isn't good enough, I think there's also economic pluses, keeping employees in town, contributing to Saanich's economy. I think the applicant has been sensitive to the design of the institutional building. I just think that originally I would have liked it to have gone, but because of the design and the jobs that are created there and staying in our neighborhood, I'm supportive of the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brownoff. Councillor Murdoch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My colleagues have all elaborated on their rationale for supporting or not supporting this application, and I don't think I have much to add either way. I think I do sympathize with a number of the points Councillor Derman raised, and to be honest, I have been inclined to not support the application as we've reviewed this multiple times, including a very long run through this evening. But I have arrived at the conclusion that I find this supportable. I certainly don't think it's perfect, and I, more than anything else, lament the fact that there's been a division on the executive of the community association, and I think a breakdown of communication between the proponent and representatives from that community association. I find that circumstance very unfortunate, and I'm troubled by seeing that take place. Certainly, you know, when it's all said and done and things are built, neighbors have to be neighbors and get along, and I hate to see a legacy of this application being a split and animosity. Certainly, you know, when you have large-scale or larger-scale applications, it becomes challenging to reconcile how you make that fit within a built community, in an established community. Maybe as a council, as a municipality, we can be a better service provider in providing the tools for community associations to have those conversations. I mean, certainly we've got some very seasoned folks in the North Quadra area who have a lot of experience in dealing with applicants, but I think what's happened here is working at cross purposes, and I really don't like to see that happen. You know, on balance, there's an awful lot that goes into this application that I find quite supportable. I have to admit that I probably wouldn't have put an industrial operation in this location. I am pleased to see the owner making all of the effort and investment to continue to make it work and support his employees and continue to be a good employer in this neighborhood. In terms of the density, this is probably more than I would have recommended in this area. I don't think that it's a comfortable fit to arrive at this number of units, but I don't think that it's going to necessarily detract from the overall character of the neighborhood to have that here. This has been my neighborhood. I live on the other side of Quadro. This has been my neighborhood for most of the last 5 years. Trying to be objective, I often think to myself in any application, if this was my backyard, if this was my neighborhood, would I be comfortable supporting this? In this case, it was a little closer to home, and it was something that ultimately I did find supportable. So I want to commend the applicant for the amenity package that is presented. I think that there could have been more prepared here that met some of the aspirations of the neighborhood, particularly around bike lanes. I don't view it as a total missed opportunity, but I do think that there were elements that could have been explored that didn't ultimately end up making it into the package. And I also want to thank the members of the Community Association, who I think did make a considerable amount of effort and spend an extraordinary amount of time on this application, even if it ultimately wasn't something that they could find themselves supporting. I do think that we owe a tremendous debt as a council to the volunteers within our community who spend so many hours trying to make applications like this one successful and find their way into their neighborhoods. I again regret that it's going to perhaps result in some mixed feelings and animosity over what ultimately was approved, but I do want to commend a tremendous amount of effort on the part of all parties involved. So for someone who said he didn't have much to add, I think I've already said a lot. I will now stop and just say that I'll be supporting the application.
Thank you. Councillor Haynes, you'd like to speak again?
Yeah, I just have a brief remark, two remarks actually. But I would like to start by appreciating what all the councillors have said and how Councillor Murdoch just appreciated the significant work that's been done by the communities on this. But when we look at this proposal, it hasn't been mentioned tonight because of the nature of the family, but coming out of that Island West food processing plant is a significant amount of food that goes to our place and other community kitchens. How do you measure that as a community amenity? How do you measure that? That's something that wasn't mentioned by the family, but I wanted to point that out for you. Another point on traffic, I'm glad that Councillor Brownoff invited the people on Kane to come to the Advisory Traffic Committee. But one point of note that I have, one of the speakers today said it takes 4 to 6 minutes to turn left coming up Kane onto Quadra, and you were asking for a traffic light, and you're saying in heavy traffic it goes 6 to 8 minutes maybe. If you get a traffic light there, it will speed traffic up and it will make that turning more attractive. So where I'm living in Prospect Lake, there's a little bit of a discourse amongst the community saying we would like a traffic light to speed it up, and others are saying don't put a traffic light in there because it will bring more traffic to the cut-through, which perhaps was one of the things that Councillor Brownoff was mentioning. However, when you go to the advisory committee, they'll talk you through all these aspects, so just be careful what you wish for on that corner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Councillor Brownoff?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Councillor Haynes, they don't come to the Ministry of Traffic Committee. You write us with the issues, and then the ATC, which is made up of police and engineers, will evaluate, come out, and then you'll get a response. So we don't take people coming. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Brownell. Having heard from all council, I will just briefly weigh in. I'm very torn on this one. When I have residents of the community such as Mr. Charania and Ms. Whitworth, who I think have come before council a number of times with great insights, it's difficult for me to then vote against what they're asking for. I am going to be supporting the motion tonight, but I would say on the balance, not because I'm thrilled that it's going to happen, but I do support economic development in this community. I would be hard-pressed to look in the eyes, I believe, of the manager, Mr. Aspen, and tell him that I can't support this. The amenities piece, folks, in our discussions that have occurred, and thanks to Councillor Brownell, we're kind of in a gray area on amenities because we want them, obviously, and we want them to be as significant as possible for the community, but it can't be extortion. And so we haven't got a clear policy on what our amenities are, our CAC's percentage are. We are guided by a document that the province created that, to be honest, Mr. Charania forwarded to me. It was the first time I'd seen it. And so to say that we're going to create a policy tonight, or even with this example of here is how we will deal with all CACs going forward, I can't do that to this developer. The component around the future bike lane, yeah, that's a major disappointment that we don't have that, and I would rather have that than some of the other things, because the sidewalk, I'm sure, valuable. That bike lane is something I would like to have, but that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with what's in front of us. So based on the whole package of yes or no, that's our job as council to decide. I will be voting in favor of this. Any further comments? Thank you, council, and thank you, audience, for a great set of comments. I'm sorry, sir.
Can I?
You can't actually.
I cannot.
No, and it's not because we don't value.
I missed the first half of the meeting.
I'm afraid. Okay, folks, I'll chair here, please. I'm sorry. On this topic, public input closed about a half an hour ago, and I'm sorry we will not be taking any further input.
Can I ask one question, though?
No, you may not. Although
I can't even ask a question.
At this point, sir, public input has been closed, and I will happily meet with you after the meeting to hear your question.
Okay,
and
that's
I'm
fine.
Sorry that it goes against my spirit to have people not be able to speak, but our bylaws say public input is closed.
Not a problem.
It's actually the law. So please stick around and I will answer your question. So,
sure, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just on that
Councillor
point,
Bryce,
just on that point, I think even after the meeting closes, no members of this council will be discussing anything with any member of the public. So
yes,
I just
that's the law. That's not up for debate. My newness to the role made me forget that, sir. I'm sorry.
No, I'm the resident there for 39 years.
You can speak to staff, and that
I
would be the
proposed for the
best.
sidewalks from Rogers to Dieppe in 2004.
I really empathize with the fact that you weren't able to participate, but I have to keep
I was here earlier, but I chose not to be here for the same reason.
In order to keep the order of the meeting going forward, I'm going to have to ask you to please not shout out. I'm sorry that it didn't work out for you. I am now going to put the question, having heard the debate. All those in favor of the recommendation? All those opposed? We show Councillor Dermott opposed. The motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. We should then hear a second. We should be moving readings.
so
Look for a motion to move first reading.
Second reading.
We just did the first reading. Sorry, this is my newness, flustered at the meeting. That first vote was on the first reading, or should we just start again? Okay, the recommendation, so I'm looking for a second reading. Moved by Bryce, seconded by Ames. All those in favor? Opposed? Again, show Councillor Dermott opposed. Motion carries. Looking for third reading. Bryce, seconded by Workland. All those in favor? Opposed? Again, show Councillor Dermott opposed. The motion carries. And then finally, looking for a recommendation to approve development permit EPR 00543.
This particular proposal has two bylaws.
one bylaw 9353, and the second is 9354. So we would entertain a second reading of bylaw 9354.
Thank you. We should have done them omnibus, but we didn't, so we shall do 9354 as a second reading. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Show Councilor German is opposed. Motion carries. Move third reading of bylaw 9354. Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councilor German opposed. Motion carries. Now we're on to the recommendation to approve development DPR 00543, and I apologize for my errors.
Move to development permit?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councilor German opposed. The recommendation approves. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please introduce our next item for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This final item on the public hearing agenda this evening is the Streamside and Environmental Development Permit Area Atlas revisions. The official community plan, bylaw number 2008, official community plan 2008, amendment bylaw 2015, number 9355. This is to amend the Streamside Development Permit Area Atlas and the Environmental Development Permit Area Atlas. These are Schedules 2 and 3 of Appendix N of the Official Community Plan. These amendments are in order to improve the accuracy of the atlases and to allow the atlases to be more consistent with the riparian area regulations. Council is in receipt of the reports of the Director of Planning dated September 21st, 2015 and July 24th, 2015, recommending approval of amendments 1, 2, and 4 through 13 of Schedule 2 of the Appendix N of the Official Community Plan. These are for the Streamside Development Permit Area Atlas. And also to approve amendments to 8 and 9 to Schedule 3, which is the Environmental Development Permit Area Atlas. This is of Appendix N of the Official Community Plan bylaw as requested by the owners. Staff, the third part of this recommendation is that staff be requested to bring forward the amendment number 3 to a future public hearing when the requested information is available. Before Council as well as the bylaw 9355 and an excerpt from the Committee of the Whole meeting of August 10th. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your great reading again. Council, any questions of staff before we begin? Seeing none, I shall invite our Manager of Environmental Services. Are you coming forward to present, or am I in error?
Through the chair, if council would like a briefing, I can provide them.
But certainly the council has been provided in advance the written documentation, so it's your opinion that it is not necessary at this point unless council wishes to ask for it. Great. I shall ask council then, do you wish to have a presentation? Seeing none, thank you very much. Thank you for the clarification, Ms. Pollard. We would therefore invite members of the public to come in and provide their name and their residential address, please, and then they will be able to speak to this item. Thank you very much for your patience. We recognize it's been a long evening. Welcome.
My name is Carol Davidson. My address is 5058 West Saanich Road. I am here to speak in support of council approving the corrections to the development permits. I understand from the manager for the Environmental Services Department that if these are not approved now, then it will be another 2 years probably before they'll be looked at again. And I believe for people who have already been waiting for 2 years to wait another 2 years would be extreme hardship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Davidson. Are there any other members of the public who would wish to speak on this matter? Good evening. Welcome to the meeting.
Good evening, council, staff. My name is Daniel Dorr. I live at 3451 Mayfair Drive. I own a number of properties in Saanich that have been affected by the Environmental Development Permit Area. I was at the last meeting, September 28th, when it was brought to the attention, and at a very lengthy meeting. It was going on for just over 4 hours. I didn't speak at that time, but I've been, affected in a major way since and before its adoption. I'm quite bothered by the fact that two of our very dear neighbors spoke and had people, their family speak, whether by video address or by in person, that it was very much established at that meeting, and it was quite clear to me, and I think to all council and staff, that this and any changes to this bylaw should wait until the town hall meeting and the open house. We had the open house, we haven't had the town hall meeting, and I'm very surprised and upset that it is before you tonight. I tried to find out more about this throughout the day. When I found out about it, I was not able to find out any information about it through my inquiries. It's not properly addressed in the literature. The mapping, you can't read which maps they are. From what I can see, it's all of the maps that have been affected and all properties that have been affected from the EDPA. Although it's singling out a few, it is so unclear, and again, it feels like we're not being notified about changes to a process. I was in the process of a rezoning for coming up close to 8 months, in and out of staff, in and out of planning department through those 8 months. I had what I thought was a good development going forward. I spent thousands of dollars on the development plan. I was blindsided by the EDPA, completely blindsided. Nobody ever warned me of this EDPA am I okay to speak?
I'm looking, I think my council colleagues wish to make a point of order, and in order to interrupt the speaker, which we've now done, I'm going to ask for one of you to make a point of order if you feel that the meeting should be run differently. Councillor German?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to let the speaker know that this is really about the stream side.
It's also about the EPA, according to the
It's
information that was just read out.
A very small portion in terms of whether properties are appropriately placed or not under the current bylaw. So this is primarily about revisions to the stream side.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I'm going to make a ruling here. Because it does make reference to the EDPA, I'm going to allow the speaker to continue. If council wishes to challenge the ruling of the chair, you can challenge. I've had a request to check with the clerk. I will defer to the clerk because, again, I am new. Madam Clerk, I believe as chair, this gentleman is commenting on the EDPA under item DB and that it is appropriate.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would only allow or qualify that the intent of the hearing is to speak to the nature of the bylaw before us. So the bylaw revisions under 953 or 9355 are for those specific areas. So that would be the scope of the conversation, is to speak and address to the points that are outlined in that amendment bylaw.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm going to, again, interpret, because Mr. Dorr started off making his comments wondering why we are making decisions tonight when everything else is on pause, to continue. But having heard the advice from the clerk, Mr. Dorr, I would ask you to try and keep it as specific as you can to the reason for this public hearing. There will be a town hall where you will have the opportunity to come forward and speak on the EDPA in any form. But I would ask you to try and keep it to the public hearing topic as best you can. Thank you, Madam Clerk and colleagues, for your input.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of the stream side as well, because I believe both items were mentioned at the last council meeting, and it was clear to me at that time that they would both, all items to do with the EDPA and the stream side protection and the shore protection would be on hold until these items were addressed and the process in which they were put in place would be looked at in depth. So I am speaking to the fact on all of those items that we in the public gallery were led to believe that this was on hold until after that town hall meeting. If that town hall meeting is coming, why is this in front of us now? Why isn't it after? We made the other application table. I don't understand it. And that's my point, and I finish with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorr. I certainly appreciate you coming, and I will ask that question of staff after all public input on your behalf. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you. Anyone else wish to come forward to speak on this matter before us? Welcome to the meeting.
Good evening. My name is Anita Bull of 4462 Wilkinson Road. I would like to speak on the issue tonight, but I don't know what the issue is. I contacted Saanich staff numerous times today and over the last 2 days, and was not given any clear answer as to what the exact issue is tonight with regards to the EDPA. I did hear that it was to have a property on Falaise removed from the EDPA, and then I also heard that it was for another property on Cedar Glen, or is it Glendenning, to be removed from the EDPA. So I don't know if that's what's before us tonight, because that's the information I was given by staff. If that is what is before us tonight, to have those two properties removed from the EDPA, I would, express my objection to that, given what Mr. Dewar has already said about the meeting in September.